who's a fit for this?
Yeah. Self-employed people are usually a good fit. Banks don't like self-employed people. We're self-employed, and there's reasons. Riskier, they don't have that kind of steady job. So I get it. Self-employed people typically have some money saved up, but maybe they have a cash business, and they're just not claiming enough income, or they're writing off too much on their taxes, and they need to flip the switch on that. So that's pretty common. That's usually a good fit, as opposed to somebody that's got bad credit issues. That's a whole other thing we could dive into, is reasons why people have bad credit. But we can help those people too. People go. I like to say it's life happens to some people.
Yep.
They're not just bad with their money. They went through a divorce. COVID affected their jobs, things like that. And as long as we see that, they're on the path to becoming homeowners and be able to get a loan from a bank, they're kind of digging themselves out. That's who we can help.
Yeah. So let's touch base a little bit based on self-employed or business owners, right? Somebody's a business owner, self-employed, or somebody that, you can own a business, or a contractor, independent contractor, right? So like you said, we're self-employed, right? Agents get paid 1099. Brokers, lenders get paid 1099, right? The other thing that's also big these days is because of the way that the industry is, the economy has changed, right? So the old traditional way where somebody goes to an office or a factory and works 9 to 5 and gets paid an hourly rate over 40 hours, a weekly paycheck and so forth, that's changed, right? That's no longer the case, right? There are so many more entrepreneurs these days, right? I mean, it's so popular, right? In social media, YouTube channels, it's like, hey, be an entrepreneur. So you can live the life of whatever, right? And everybody's got this dream to work for themselves. Everybody dreams like, hey, I don't want to work for the man, right? Nobody wants to work for the man. They want to work for themselves, create their own lifestyle, freedom, passion, whatever they're passionate about. So, right. So a lot of entrepreneurs these days, but they have a hard time documenting their income because people are getting paid through PayPal, Zelle, Cash App, Cash, right? All these ways that people get paid these days. So banks, right? Banks are old traditional. Banks have been around for, since the beginning of time, right? And they're all used to doing stuff the old way, right? So the banks are old school, as I like to put it. They like to stay within their comfort zone, right? So they want to document this and everything nice and tidy within the box. Well, people that get paid through Zelle, we talked about entrepreneurs. We talked about the gig economy, right? If anybody's never heard of that term, right? The gig economy is this. People that are Uber drivers, right? Yeah. Food delivery is huge these days, right? People that are driving through apps. So you have all these modern things that have come through the age of technology that people can either replace their old traditional income or the side hustle, right? Additional sources of income, however you want to call it, 1099, odd jobs, right? Handymans, all these people that are doing these kind of jobs that are not old traditional jobs, but they're getting money, they're getting paid, and they want to use that income to qualify. Well, most of the time, the banks are like, I don't know, we don't like it. We don't like it, right? As soon as they see it, they're like, it turns them off, right? Now, there are a few programs out there that'll let you document alternatively, but the traditional lending programs like conventional, FHA, VA, USDA, they want a 2-year history documented on your tax returns.
Yep.
Right? If it's not on your tax returns, they don't count. They right. So, as a general practice, if you're a self-employed, you're a business owner, and we were having a previous discussion about talking with a bookkeeper as we do our books and whatnot, right? Yeah. The general practice or the good practice, a CPA or a bookkeeper is going to say, hey, have a business account in the name of your business separate from your personal account So that way you can run all the income into your business account, right? And then run all the business expenses out of that. And then you pay yourself from that into your personal account, whatever you're going to draw yourself. And then at the end of the year, you can document for your CPA for tax purposes. That's the correct way of doing it, right? To stay organized right away. But obviously, when you start as an entrepreneur or you start a side hustle, you're not thinking about that. You're like, okay, I'm passionate about doing this, and I'm going to start marketing, and I'm going to get out there and do it. You're not thinking about the books. You're not thinking, because this isn't stuff that they teach you, right? When you're starting as an entrepreneur or a business owner, they don't teach you this, right? They don't teach you this in high school. Like, I mean, I got an economics. I went to ASU for economics. I mean, yeah, you take basic accounting, right? And then you take business administration, right? And some finance. But even people that are MBAs, they don't really teach you how to set it up, right? They teach you, hey, this is what the books should look like, profit and loss, income statement, right? But it's not, okay, yeah, that's great. If I'm looking at it from somebody else's perspective, but what about my own? How do I put it together, right? They don't teach you any of that stuff. So people end up finding out the hard way. It's like, okay, yeah, I got my side hustle, I got my business, I'm working at it for 2 years now, and I want to apply, and then you don't have all your paperwork lined up or whatever. The banks aren't going to look at it as you being bankable, right? As you're not ready for them to lend to you. So you have to look for alternative ways. And that is one of the type of people. And we get a lot of that. We get a lot of that people, yeah, they have good businesses. They're running a lot of revenue, $1 million of revenue, but they're writing off $1 million. Why? Because the CPA says, yeah, you want to pay the least amount of taxes, right? Yeah. They're doing it legally. There's nothing wrong with that. They're running $1 million in revenue, expensing $1 million, and they're netting zero from a tax standpoint. Right? Yep. A lot of it tends to be paper losses. And so the bank says, hey, you're broke on paper. We can't lend you any money. So that is one thing that they don't realize that happens all the time.
Yep. Happens all the time.
Yeah. So then let's talk about who else would be. So we talked about self-employed business owners, entrepreneurs, gig workers, right? Side hustle, those kind of people. What would be another kind of individual that would be a fit?
Well, that just triggered I got a call one day. Somebody was working for Lockheed Martin. Had a good job there, was getting a job transfer to Denver. And I get this call. They're like, we can't buy a house because they had like a primary residence and I think a rental property, and they were late on like 1 or 2 payments. Just clerical error, forgot auto pay was off or something minor like that. And they're like, the guy made good money and didn't want to move his family of 5 and, dogs and cats and everybody into a rental and then have to go buy a house once they could get financing from the bank. So that's where we come in. We can get them in the house. They can go pick a house and not have to move twice. I mean, that's a huge headache. Well, that I hear that all the time. So that's a case. Guy had a good W-2 job, but screwed up something. Just one checkbox.
Yeah, so people that are relocating, right? It could be relocation from a job. So let's say you're an engineer at, Motorola in Houston, and you get relocated to another company, but maybe the job isn't quite the same, right?
Yeah.
Well, when you do an application for financing, on your application, obviously you have to put your employment history. Typically, lenders are looking for the same line of work, right? If you're new to a new line of work because you got relocated, or hey, somebody gets laid off from one company, I gotta go find a job. Somebody offers you a job that maybe not quite the same, Maybe the lender isn't going to be too crazy about it. Well, you don't have a history of this. Somebody that's a business owner, let's say, hey, I own, I don't know, I own carpet. I have a business, carpet cleaning business in Denver. Hey, but I want to move to the warm weather in Phoenix, and now I'm going to start my company in Phoenix. Well, yeah, that's a different market. You don't have a history of having business or contracts in Phoenix. Let's say you contract with commercial buildings that you clean carpet. Now you're at a different location, right? You're relocating. These are the questions that underwriters, lenders are going to ask, right? Is this income stable? Is it predictable, right? Can we document it, right? These are the things that come up a lot of the times. And then you brought up the scenario where, hey, they got to relocate it. They couldn't sell their house fast enough, right? So as we know, people aren't selling their house as fast as we were a couple of years ago, right? So time on the market for properties are taking longer, but somebody's got to go. It's like, yeah, you got to be at the new job in 2 weeks. I haven't sold my house. I can't qualify for the new one because I got 2 payments. I'm going to have 2 payments, right? Most people can't qualify with 2 payments, right? So this is a scenario where, hey, we're going to bridge the gap, get you into the house, and give you time to go ahead and sell that one. And then now that that debt is gone because it's been sold, now you can come back and try to basically get new financing for the house at the new location that you're living in.
Yep.
All right. Okay, so we brought up self-employed business owner, job transfers. Let's backtrack because I think you brought it up, right? I call it people that have life events.
Yeah.
Hiccups on their credit, right? I'm not going to call it bad credit. It's hiccups, life events, because stuff happens. There's a phrase that I like to use. It's called bad things happen to good people.
Yeah.
Right? It's just life, right? People get divorced, right? People have medical conditions. Stuff happens. People get into a car accident, and now you're out of commission for a month. Now you get behind. Maybe you're waiting for your employer to pay, I don't know, your disability or the temporary insurance when somebody gets workman's comp or something along those lines, right? Sometimes there's delay with that money, and you get behind on the bills, right? Well, if you did not know, if you have a 1 times 30 on your mortgage or rent in the last 12 months, you cannot get new financing for a mortgage. It has to be older than 12 months. So 1 times 30, that's all it takes. So you can't even refinance.
Yep.
So that happens. People get behind on the credit cards, obviously, if you get hurt. So we're talking about life events. What happened during COVID? Right? COVID affected a lot of people. They got sick, or I even saw some applications from people that were furloughed. Remember, some states shut down their factories, right? I had a couple of furloughed Tesla employees, right? They had to shut down now, obviously, we know from if you follow the markets, right? Some of those factories were moved from California to Texas, but at the time when they were in California, those companies were those employees at those factories were furloughed, right? How about the UAW workers, right? The auto workers, right? Those factories got shut down because if nobody's driving, they don't need to build cars, right? That's what happened in 2010. So who's building the cars? Why are we building cars? Why are the factories going and nobody's driving? Because everything's shut down. Those people were impacted. They were furloughed, right? And then in some places, right, say you're a business owner and you got a restaurant. And if you were at a location where your area was shut down and you couldn't conduct business, that took a while to get sorted out. Initially, everybody got sorted. Then over time, maybe in 6 months down the road, or the city's kind of lessened up on their restrictions and said, okay, now instead of being able to fit 100 people, you can fit 20 people because the tables are separated. We saw a lot of that. Or now you can have some tables outside, right? I saw a lot of that. A lot of parts of the country during that time period where I got to go around, and everybody was doing their own thing. It was by state. It was by city. So everybody was kind of doing their own rules, basically. So people were impacted by that, right? Stuff beyond their control. right? It wasn't that they wanted to be late. It wasn't that they didn't want income. This is that they weren't performing their job or didn't want to perform the job or quit their job. It was just stuff happens, stuff that we don't know that could happen, right?
Yep.
So those life events, people with hiccups in their credit. Unfortunately, we see a lot of divorced people, right? So one of the things that tends to happen is people get divorced and they're not happy with each other. Nobody wants to pay the credit card bill. They're blaming each other. They're mad. They get emotional in that aspect. And like, no, you pay it. No, you pay it. No, you pay it. No, you pay it. And nobody's paying it. They're making money. They got jobs, but no, they kind of, as they say, cut off their nose to spite their face, basically. And they end up messing up their own credit by default because they're mad at each other and going through that process of divorce and bickering over who's responsible for what and who gets out of the favorite couch or whatever, or the dog or the cow, right? So those people end up doing this to themselves. And then once that's sort of settled, it's like, oh, yeah, now that I'm divorced, okay, he or she got the house. I need my own place. I can't get financing because you just messed up your credit, right? Yep. Yeah, but I got a job. And out of the settlement of divorce, I'm entitled to this, or this is my assets that I was able to keep and we were able to sort out through the divorce. So I have the money, but my credit is shot because we had these issues while we were going through this process. So a lot of people like that. So we give them the opportunity to kind of get into a home today until we can get that sorted out, cleaned up, right? And basically when it comes to credit, you just need seasoning a lot of times. When we say seasoning, is the older the derogatory item on your credit is, the less impact it has on your score, right? I just talked about like being late on your mortgage or rent, right? So I said any 30 days within the last 12 months has an impact. Now, if it goes over 12 months, right? So you got to make on time payments for 12 months. And then now the lender say, okay, it's over 12 months. Now you've kind of shown a history of being back on track. Now we'll lend to you.